Okay, so let's talk about class structure. Previously, we were looking at ways that we can have classes to be able to create more specific things. Now I want to actually look at how we can use inheritance. So there may be instances where we want to create really complex things, and we can start doing that by building with simple class structure and then making it more complex as we go. So an easy way for us to kind of do this is just to walk through an example. So let's say that I have an animal class. I'm going to call it animal. And we have our basic constructor. And let's say every animal has a name. Okay, that's something very simple. I don't like how that's laying out. That's annoying me. So we want to store that in there. This dot name is the name that we're passing in. Okay, and we're saying basically for every animal that we are creating, they have a move function. So I'm just going to print out to console so we can see this. And I'm going to use a string literal to do that. So this is a backtick. And I'm going to say this dot name is moving. So a very general statement for how it's moving. And let's say that every animal can speak. Okay, so console.log backtick this dot name is speaking. Okay, so very, very general. Now I want to set this up so that I can run this. Class inheritance walkthrough. All right, let's go ahead and we have that animal class. Now we need to actually add that into our index that it will call. And we'll have to start paying attention to where the order is because it will start to matter. But we can say animal.js. Okay, now if I was in my sketch, I have to save so that there's no issues. But I could basically create an animal. So I could say, let's say polar bear. That's our example that we're going to use. And maybe, I want to create some type of dog class. I have a dog named Reynolds. Let's go ahead and you do that one. Now, if I was creating as an animal, so I could say polar bear is a new animal and then give it its requirement. In this case, I'm going to say polar bear. And I can still run this. So I could say polar bear dot move and polar bear dot speak. Okay, now if I run this, I can see both of those functions running. What's happening? I'm really calling the animal class, and I'm calling the name that I originally gave it, and I'm saying is moving and is speaking. Okay, so all I am doing is I'm just accessing the move and the speak function, and I'm printing out this. That's pretty general. Okay, I still have access to different parameters for that polar bear for the animal class. So I could say polar bear dot name, which we are going to eventually learn how to do private variables, because we should not be able to actually access those like what we are. Okay, so this example works. Now let's say I want to create a dog class. Okay, even if I'm doing this, Reynolds equals a new animal, and I'm giving it the name Reynolds. And I call this to run it, so let's comment out this. Reynolds.move and Reynolds.speak. Okay, I'm going to see the same thing that I've seen for that polar bear. All I'm doing is really just calling the moving and the speaking function for the animal class, which is what we see. Okay, now, in this case, I want to inherit. I like the functions of the animal. I like that it has a move and a speak, and I like that it has a name, but I want to be more specific. So I want to create a new class that I'm going to call dog.js. And this one, I want to inherit all of the abilities and the attributes and the functions that the animal class has, but then make them more specific for a dog. So I might end up having more things than what the normal animal has. And I might end up having functions that are more specific. So to do that, I create the class, and then I need to use a keyword extends, and then call the class that I want it to extend or to inherit from. So really, I'm creating a dog class that I'm inheriting stuff from the animal class. Okay, so I still am going to have a constructor, and I still need to pass in the requirements. Well, I could say every dog's going to have that name because it's of the animal class. It's inheriting from the animal class, so I need that. And I could say that every dog has a owner. I could also say that every dog has a, let's say, fur color. And let's say every dog has a temperament. Okay. Now, once I create those, so this name, I don't need to say this.name is name because I'm saying that the dog is of the animal class. So instead of me doing that, really what I need to do is I need to call that animal class and just pass in the information that it needs. So in this case, I need to use the keyword super, which is like a function, but it's basically like I'm calling this animal right here, this animal constructor, and I'm just passing in what it needs because the dog is a more specific, it's a subclass of the animal. Okay, so super, and then I'm going to pass in that name, and I got to do that first, and then after everything, I can, create all the dog attributes. So this dot owner is that owner. This dot fur color is the fur color. This dot temperament is the temperament. Okay, now those are specific to the dog. This is still specific to the animal class. Now I still have a move function, but I could say, well, dogs move differently than just normal animals, so I want it to be a little bit more specific. Now, if that's the case, then instead of you writing just another function, as long as you are writing it exactly the same as the inherited classes function, then we can override it, which means that we can change it to do something else. So instead of saying this.name is moving, let's say all dogs, they like to run. So console.log, how about we say this.name is running because this.name is very this.temperament. Okay. So instead of saying the normal move, now I want to override this with something a little bit more specific. I'm going to do the same thing with speak. Instead of a dog just speaking, a dog barks. Console.log. We'll use string literal. This.name is barking. And now I want to do the temperament. So let's say that I'm going to create another function specific to the dog, and let's say I call it current mood. And I could say console.log this.name it has a this dot temperament Okay, so I'm creating a specific function for this, and maybe I want to do another one for getting the owner. So get owner, and I'm saying console.log this dot name about the owner of this dot name is this dot owner. Okay, so I got two new functions, get owner and current mood, that's specific for the dog, and then I have overrode the speak and move. I have additional attributes that the dog class has that the animal class doesn't. Okay, so now that I have those, there's one more thing that I need to do. I have to load that dog class. Now, the order does matter. So I can't create the dog class before, or load the dog class before I've loaded the animal class, because the animal class is specific and the dog class is inheriting from the animal class. So that means that the animal class has to be loaded before I can load the dog class. So let's just call this. I'm just going to copy it, and then I'm going to change this to dog. Okay. So now I could go to my sketch, and instead of saying Reynold is a new animal, now I can say he's a new dog. But I'm going to have to give those additional attribute requirements. So name, owner, fur color, temperament. Name, owner, fur color, temperament. Name, owner. So red beard, fur color, let's say red, and temperament. Happy. Okay, so that is my now dog class. Okay, now I could still leave these functions the same, but now they're going to be more specific. Look, Reynold is running because Reynold is very happy. Reynold is barking. Oops, I got a spelling mistake in my dog class. Is running because Reynold is very happy. Speak, I can say Reynold is barking. Now I can also call those additional functions. So Reynold dot get owner and Reynold dot current mood. Let's go ahead and run. The owner of Reynold is Redbeard. Reynold has a happy. That's weird. So some things won't work as is. Okay. Let's go ahead and run that again. Reynold is happy. Reynold space. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so this would be an example of us overriding some different functions, but we still inherited. Now I could inherit again from maybe the dog class and have a more specific class. Instead of a dog, let's say I call it Red Bone Coonhound .js, and since I'm doing a class, Red Bone Coonhound, and I could do class Red Bone Coonhound, that's the type of dog that I have, which is extending the dog class, which the dog class is extending the animal class. So I still am going to end up having a constructor, which I'm going to need to have a name. I got to pass in everything that is part of the dog class. That's one of the first requirements. So let's go into here. We know we're going to have to pass all those, but maybe I might also pass in the type of dog. So I can call this super, and the super I'm going to have to pass in the name. But see, now this super is not calling the animal class, it is calling the dog class. So this super is calling this dog class, the dog class is calling the animal class. So that means that I have to pass in all of these for the dog. Okay, so name, owner, fur color, and temperament. Okay, so name, owner, fur color, and temperament. And I don't need to do anything else for that. I have those already set up, but I'm also going to end up doing this dot type is the type that I'm going to pass in. And then I want to override maybe one of these ones to give the type. It's a very, okay, so let's override this one, the move. So I'm going to use something similar to this, but I'm going to change it a little bit. So let's say move, and I'm going to say this dot name is running because this dot name is a very something space this dot type dog. Okay, so now that is going to error out though if I'm trying to use it, unless I build it in here. So the dog class has to be before the red bone coonhound, so I need to do that. Red bone coonhound. I gotta spell it exactly the same. Okay. And then in my sketch, instead of saying Reynolds is a new dog, I can say now he is a new red bone coonhound. Okay. I'm still passing in all that stuff, and I can give it an additional red bone coonhound. And now, when I run this, that move function, Reynolds is running because Reynolds is a very happy red bone coonhound dog. Okay, so red bone coonhound. That is how we can use inheritance to make more complex things. So why would we do this? How would we do this? Well, we walked through how, but why? More specifically, we can create, say, like a game character. That game character doesn't need to just be the player that we are playing, but could also be the enemies that are part of our game. We can add certain attributes that all of them have. All of them, display themselves and update themselves. Only some of them, which would be the player character, is the ones that, are updated by movement actions. So we can override and add those additional functions to make it more specific for a player character, but maybe I might want for a certain enemy that their movement is dictated by a different type of AI. So maybe all of them have a health component, but only some of them, can die or something to that effect. I can build that complexity by using inheritance. All right, good luck, have fun.